Have you ever wondered why some people seem to experience a sudden financial breakthrough, while others spend years struggling to move forward? From the outside, it often looks as though wealth appears unexpectedly. One day they are facing challenges, and the next day opportunities seem to flow effortlessly into their lives. But what if that breakthrough wasn't sudden at all? What if something important was happening long before the money arrived? What if there was an invisible transformation taking place beneath the surface, one that most people never notice? Today, we are going to explore one of the most fascinating truths about prosperity and success. Before wealth appears in the outer world, something changes within. Before circumstances shift, a mindset shifts. Before abundance becomes visible, a new belief takes root. Before opportunities arrive, a person begins seeing themselves differently. Most people spend their lives focusing on external results. They watch bank accounts, job opportunities, investments, and circumstances, hoping to find proof that their future is improving. But those who experience extraordinary breakthroughs often discover a deeper principle: the inner world changes first. The strange thing that happens before wealth arrives is not found in the economy, the marketplace, or the opinions of others. It happens in your thinking. It happens in your expectations. It happens in the way you see yourself and your future. As you listen to this message, open your mind to the possibility that the wealth you seek may not begin with a financial opportunity. It may begin with a transformation in consciousness. Because when your inner state changes, your relationship with opportunity changes. And when that happens, life can begin moving in directions you never imagined. So if you've been waiting for a breakthrough, this message may reveal why your greatest opportunity could be much closer than you think. One of the most misunderstood truths about wealth is that it does not begin in a bank account, an investment portfolio, a business venture, or a lucky opportunity. Wealth begins in the mind. Long before prosperity becomes visible in the outer world, it often exists as a state of consciousness within an individual. This idea may seem surprising because most people are conditioned to believe that wealth is something external. They assume that money creates a wealthy mindset. Yet, when you look closely at the lives of those who achieve lasting success, you often discover the opposite. Their mindset changed before their circumstances did. Most people spend their lives reacting to what they see. If money is scarce, they feel limited. If opportunities seem absent, they feel discouraged. If results are slow, they become doubtful. Their thoughts and emotions are controlled by their current conditions. As a result, they remain trapped in a cycle where circumstances dictate their mindset. But individuals who experience significant breakthroughs often reverse this pattern. Instead of allowing circumstances to define their thinking, they allow their thinking to influence how they respond to circumstances. A wealthy state of mind is not merely about wanting more money. It is about developing a deeper belief in possibility, abundance, and personal value. It is the understanding that opportunities exist even when they are not immediately visible. It is the confidence that solutions can be found even when challenges arise. It is the expectation that life can improve rather than the assumption that struggle is permanent. These beliefs may seem simple, but they create a powerful foundation for future success. Think about two people facing the same financial challenge. One immediately assumes defeat. They focus on what they lack, complain about their circumstances, and convince themselves that nothing will change. The other person chooses a different perspective. They acknowledge the challenge but refuse to let it define them. They remain open to possibilities. They continue learning, growing, and looking for solutions. Although both individuals begin in similar situations, their mental attitudes create very different paths. Over time, those differences often produce very different results. The reason mindset is so important is that it influences behavior. A person who believes abundance is possible will notice opportunities that others ignore. They are more likely to take constructive action. They are more willing to invest in themselves, learn new skills, and persist through difficulties. On the other hand, a person who believes that success is out of reach may unconsciously avoid opportunities because they have already decided that failure is inevitable. The outer actions may appear different, but the true difference began within. Many people mistakenly think that wealth is only about accumulation. They believe that once they reach a certain number in their bank account, they will finally feel secure, confident, and fulfilled. Yet history is filled with examples of people who gained wealth but continued feeling fearful and inadequate. Why? Because they never developed a wealthy mindset. They changed their circumstances without changing their consciousness. True wealth begins with an inner sense of abundance that is not entirely dependent on external conditions. This does not mean ignoring financial goals or pretending that money does not matter. Rather, it means understanding that lasting prosperity is built upon a strong foundation of thought and belief. If you constantly focus on scarcity, lack, and limitation, those patterns influence your decisions and expectations. But when you begin cultivating thoughts of abundance, confidence, and possibility, your relationship with money starts to change. A wealthy state of mind also includes gratitude. Gratitude shifts attention away from what is missing and toward what is already present. It helps you recognize resources, talents, opportunities, and strengths that may have gone unnoticed. This shift in focus creates a sense of richness long before material results appear. Ironically, people who appreciate what they have often become more capable of creating more. Another characteristic of a wealthy mindset is responsibility. Instead of blaming circumstances, other people, or past experiences, individuals with an abundant perspective focus on what they can control. They understand that while they may not control every event, they can control their response. This attitude empowers them to take action rather than remain stuck in frustration. The most remarkable aspect of wealth as a state of mind is that it can be developed by anyone. It is not reserved for a select few. It begins with a decision to think differently, a decision to stop defining yourself by temporary conditions, a decision to focus on possibilities rather than limitations, a decision to see yourself as capable of growth, success, and prosperity. Remember, every great achievement begins as an idea before it becomes a reality. Every business starts as a vision. Every fortune begins with a belief. Every breakthrough starts with a new way of thinking. The outer world often reflects the inner world more than people realize. So if you desire greater prosperity, begin by examining your mindset. Ask yourself what assumptions you hold about money, success, and opportunity. Notice whether your thoughts are rooted in abundance or scarcity. Then consciously choose beliefs that support the future you wish to create. Because wealth is rarely created the moment money arrives. It is usually created much earlier, when a person develops a state of mind that is capable of recognizing, attracting, and sustaining abundance. And once that mindset becomes natural, the reality often follows. One of the strangest and most powerful things that often happens before wealth arrives is a shift in feeling. It is not always a dramatic event. It is not necessarily accompanied by immediate financial changes. Instead, it begins quietly within. A feeling of certainty starts replacing a feeling of lack. This inner transformation is so subtle that many people overlook it, yet it is often one of the clearest signs that a person is moving toward a new reality. Most people spend much of their lives operating from a sense of lack. They focus on what they do not have, what they cannot afford, what opportunities seem unavailable, and what is missing from their current circumstances. Even when they set ambitious goals, their thoughts are often dominated by the gap between where they are and where they want to be. As a result, they live in a constant state of wanting. They hope for abundance, but they feel scarcity. They desire success, but they feel limitation. Their attention remains fixed on absence rather than possibility. The problem with living from a feeling of lack is that it influences every aspect of life. It affects decisions, relationships, opportunities, and self-confidence. When people feel deprived, they often become fearful. They hesitate to take action. They worry about making mistakes. They doubt their abilities. Their focus remains on protecting what little they believe they have rather than expanding what is possible. Over time, this mindset becomes a habit and the feeling of lack starts to feel normal. But before a major breakthrough occurs, something begins to change. Instead of constantly focusing on what is missing, a person develops a quiet confidence about the future. They may not have all the answers. They may not yet see clear evidence of success. Yet deep within, they begin to feel that things are moving in the right direction. They stop obsessing over every obstacle. They stop measuring their progress solely by current circumstances. A new feeling emerges, the feeling of certainty. Certainty is different from blind optimism. It is not pretending that challenges do not exist. It is not ignoring practical realities. Certainty is a deep inner conviction that your desired outcome is possible and that your current circumstances are not the final chapter of your story. It is the belief that even if you cannot yet see the entire path, progress is unfolding. Think about how differently you behave when you feel certain compared to when you feel doubtful. When you are uncertain, every setback feels like proof that you should quit. Every delay feels discouraging. Every obstacle seems larger than it really is. But when you feel certain, challenges become temporary. Delays become part of the process. Obstacles become problems to solve rather than reasons to give up. The external situation may be the same, but your response is completely different. This feeling of certainty creates emotional freedom. Instead of constantly worrying about how things will happen, you begin trusting that solutions will emerge. You stop trying to control every detail. You become more patient, more confident, and more resilient. The future no longer feels threatening because you have developed faith in your ability to navigate it. One reason certainty is so powerful is that it changes where your attention goes. A person living in lack constantly looks for evidence that things are not working. They notice every problem and every limitation. A person living in certainty notices possibilities. They become more aware of opportunities, resources, ideas, and connections that can help them move forward. The world appears different because their focus has changed. Many successful people describe experiencing this shift before their circumstances changed. Long before they achieved financial success, they stopped feeling poor internally. Long before opportunities appeared, they began expecting them. Long before results became visible, they developed a sense of confidence that their future would be different from their past. That inner certainty became the foundation upon which their external success was built. Another important aspect of certainty is that it reduces emotional dependence on immediate results. A person operating from lack constantly needs proof. They need reassurance that things are improving. They become discouraged when progress is not immediately visible. But a person operating from certainty understands that growth often occurs beneath the surface. They are willing to remain committed even when evidence is limited because their belief no longer depends entirely on appearances. This is why certainty often precedes wealth. Wealth is not only a financial condition, it is also a psychological one. Before abundance becomes visible, the mind begins accepting abundance as possible. Before prosperity becomes reality, the heart begins expecting it. Before opportunities appear, the individual starts seeing themselves differently. The feeling changes first. So if you want to create a different future, pay attention to your emotional state. Notice whether you are living from lack or from certainty. Ask yourself whether your thoughts are dominated by fear or possibility. Begin cultivating the quiet confidence that things can improve, even if you cannot yet see the full picture. Because one of the strange things that happens before wealth arrives is that you stop feeling poor long before you stop being poor. You stop feeling limited long before limitations disappear. You stop feeling defeated long before victory becomes visible. A feeling of certainty replaces the feeling of lack. And when that happens, you are no longer waiting for abundance to appear. You are becoming the person who is ready to receive it. One of the most surprising shifts that often happens before wealth arrives is that a person stops chasing money. At first, this may sound strange because society constantly teaches that success comes from relentless pursuit. People are told to work harder, push more aggressively, and constantly focus on getting money. While effort and action certainly play important roles, there is a significant difference between taking inspired action and desperately chasing an outcome. Before many people experience true financial breakthroughs, they undergo an internal transformation where anxiety is replaced with expectation and desperation is replaced with confidence. Most people spend their lives chasing money because they believe money is separate from them. They see wealth as something distant, something difficult to obtain, and something controlled entirely by outside forces. As a result, they operate from a mindset of lack. Every decision is influenced by fear. Every opportunity is approached with desperation. Every setback feels like confirmation that success is slipping further away. The harder they chase, the more they reinforce the feeling that what they want is still out of reach. The problem with constantly chasing is that it keeps your attention fixed on not having. Imagine someone running after a train that has already left the station. Their focus is entirely on the fact that they are behind. In the same way, when people spend all their time chasing wealth, they continually remind themselves that wealth is not yet theirs. Their thoughts revolve around absence instead of expectation. Before wealth arrives, something begins to change internally. The person starts seeing money differently. Instead of viewing it as something that must be hunted down, they begin seeing it as something that can naturally flow into their life through opportunities, ideas, relationships, and value they provide. Their relationship with money becomes less emotional and more confident. They stop acting like someone who is begging for prosperity and start thinking like someone who expects prosperity. Expectation is a powerful force. It changes the way you approach life. When you expect positive outcomes, you carry yourself differently. You become calmer. You become more focused. You stop reacting to every temporary setback as though it is a disaster. Instead, you begin trusting that opportunities can appear in ways you may not yet see. This expectation creates a sense of stability that allows you to make better decisions. Think about the difference between a person who is desperately searching for financial success and a person who expects success. The desperate person often jumps from one opportunity to another without commitment. They become discouraged easily. They allow fear to influence their choices. The person who expects success remains steady. They continue learning, growing, and taking action, but they do so from confidence rather than panic. Their actions are guided by belief rather than fear. One reason expectation is so powerful is that it affects what you notice. Your mind naturally looks for evidence that supports your dominant beliefs. If you expect scarcity, you become highly aware of obstacles and limitations. If you expect abundance, you become more aware of possibilities and opportunities. The opportunities may have existed all along, but your awareness of them changes because your mindset has changed. Another important shift occurs in self-worth. People who chase money often believe that money will finally prove their value. They think wealth will make them worthy, respected, or successful. But before lasting abundance arrives, many individuals begin recognizing that their worth is not dependent on their bank account. They start valuing themselves regardless of current circumstances. This shift removes a tremendous amount of pressure because they are no longer trying to earn their sense of worth through financial achievement. When self-worth increases, confidence grows. When confidence grows, people become more willing to pursue opportunities, negotiate effectively, invest in themselves, and take calculated risks. These actions often lead to improved results. The external changes are important, but they usually follow an internal transformation. Expectation also encourages patience. A person who constantly chases wealth wants immediate proof that things are working. They become frustrated by delays. They question themselves whenever progress is slow. But a person who expects wealth understands that growth takes time. They are willing to remain committed because they trust the process. Their belief is not dependent on instant results. This does not mean becoming passive or waiting for success to arrive without effort. Expectation is not inactivity, it is active confidence. It is continuing to take meaningful action while maintaining the belief that your efforts can produce positive outcomes. It is moving forward without the emotional burden of desperation. Many people miss this shift because they assume wealth is only about numbers. But wealth often begins as a change in consciousness. Before external prosperity appears, the person stops thinking like someone who lacks. They stop acting from fear. They stop chasing every opportunity out of desperation. Instead, they begin expecting good things. They trust their abilities. They trust that value creates reward. They trust that opportunities exist. So if you desire greater prosperity, examine your relationship with money. Are you chasing it from a place of fear, or are you expecting it from a place of confidence? Are you focused on what is missing, or are you focused on what is possible? The answers to these questions may reveal more about your future than you realize. Because one of the strange things that happens before wealth arrives is that the chase begins to end. The anxiety begins to fade. The desperation begins to disappear. In its place comes a quiet expectation that abundance is not something far away. It is something already moving toward you. And that expectation often becomes the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. One of the most overlooked truths about wealth and success is that your circumstances rarely change before your self-concept changes. Most people spend their lives trying to alter their external conditions while holding on to the same internal identity. They want greater income, better opportunities, stronger relationships, and a more fulfilling life, but they continue seeing themselves in the same limited way they always have. As a result, even when opportunities appear, they often struggle to sustain the changes they desire because their inner image has not yet caught up with the future they want to experience. Your self-concept is the collection of beliefs, assumptions, and ideas you hold about yourself. It is the story you tell yourself about who you are. It influences how you think, how you act, what you expect, and what you believe you deserve. Whether you realize it or not, your self-concept operates in the background of your life every single day. It quietly shapes your decisions and influences the results you create. Many people unknowingly identify themselves with struggle. They see themselves as someone who is always trying to get ahead, but never quite succeeding. They see themselves as unlucky, overlooked, or limited by circumstances. These beliefs may have developed through past experiences, disappointments, or years of repetition, but over time they become accepted as facts. Once an identity is accepted, people tend to act in ways that reinforce it. Imagine someone who has spent years believing they are financially unsuccessful. Even if a promising opportunity appears, they may hesitate to pursue it because deep down they do not see themselves as the kind of person who succeeds. Another person with a stronger self concept may approach the exact same opportunity with confidence and expectation. The difference is not necessarily intelligence, talent, or resources. Often, the difference begins with identity. Before wealth arrives, something significant starts happening internally. The person begins seeing themselves differently. They stop defining themselves by current circumstances. They stop measuring their worth by temporary setbacks. They begin adopting a new image of themselves, one that is aligned with confidence, capability, abundance, and success. This shift does not always happen overnight. In fact, it often develops gradually. At first, the new self concept may feel unfamiliar. A person who has spent years thinking of themselves as limited may find it challenging to see themselves as prosperous. Yet, with persistence, the new identity becomes stronger. They begin thinking differently. They begin speaking differently. They begin making decisions from a new perspective. One of the clearest signs of a changing self-concept is the way a person talks about themselves. Instead of saying, "I never have enough," they begin focusing on possibilities. Instead of identifying with failure, they identify with growth. Instead of expecting disappointment, they start expecting progress. Their language reflects a new relationship with themselves and with life. As self-concept changes, behavior naturally follows. People often believe they must force themselves to take different actions, but lasting change becomes much easier when identity changes first. A person who sees themselves as confident naturally acts more confidently. A person who sees themselves as successful naturally makes decisions that support success. A person who sees themselves as abundant naturally becomes more open to opportunities. This is why external changes frequently lag behind internal changes. The inner transformation happens first. The new identity develops before the new circumstances become visible. During this period, it may appear as though nothing is happening. The bank account may not look different yet. Opportunities may not have fully materialized. Yet beneath the surface, one of the most important changes is taking place. The individual is becoming the person capable of sustaining the future they desire. Many people become discouraged because they continue looking for immediate evidence. They want proof that their efforts are working. But some of the most powerful transformations are invisible at first. Confidence grows before recognition arrives. Belief grows before success appears. Self-worth grows before wealth becomes visible. These internal shifts are often the foundation upon which lasting prosperity is built. Another important aspect of self-concept is deservingness. People tend to accept experiences that align with what they believe they deserve. If someone secretly believes they are not worthy of success, they may unconsciously reject opportunities or sabotage progress. But when they begin seeing themselves as deserving of abundance, they become more willing to receive, pursue, and maintain positive outcomes. Think about the version of yourself who already possesses the qualities you admire. How does that person think? How do they respond to challenges? How do they view opportunities? How do they carry themselves? The more you begin adopting that identity internally, the more naturally your external life begins moving in the same direction. The truth is that wealth is not merely a financial event. It is often the reflection of a deeper transformation. Before prosperity becomes visible, a person starts seeing themselves differently. They stop identifying with limitation. They stop defining themselves by past failures. They begin embracing a new image of themselves, one that is aligned with confidence, capability, and abundance. So if you want your circumstances to change, start by examining your self-concept. Pay attention to the story you tell yourself every day. Notice the labels you place upon yourself. Ask whether those labels support the future you desire. Then begin creating a new identity, one that reflects the person you intend to become. Because one of the strange things that happens before wealth arrives is that you become wealthy in consciousness before you become wealthy in circumstance. Your self-concept changes first. And when that change becomes natural, the outer world often begins reflecting it in remarkable ways. One of the most important truths about success, abundance, and transformation is that the inner shift always comes before the outer breakthrough. Most people become fascinated by visible results. They admire the successful business, the financial freedom, the opportunities, and the achievements that others seem to enjoy. What they often fail to see is the invisible process that occurred first. They see the breakthrough, but they do not see the transformation in thinking, believing, and perceiving that made the breakthrough possible. The world tends to focus on appearances. It celebrates outcomes while overlooking the inner journey that created them. Yet every significant change in life begins within. Before circumstances improve, perspective improves. Before opportunities multiply, awareness expands. Before abundance becomes visible, a person starts thinking differently about themselves and their future. The external result is simply the final stage of a process that began much earlier in the mind. Many people spend years trying to force external change while neglecting their inner world. They change jobs, pursue different opportunities, and search endlessly for new strategies, hoping that a different circumstance will finally create the life they desire. While action is certainly important, action alone is often not enough. If the mindset remains unchanged, people frequently recreate the same struggles in new environments. They may change locations, careers, or situations, but they continue carrying the same beliefs and assumptions that produced previous results. This is why the inner shift is so essential. It changes the foundation from which all actions arise. When your beliefs change, your decisions change. When your decisions change, your behaviors change. When your behaviors change, your results begin changing as well. The outer breakthrough is not separate from the inner transformation, it is often the natural consequence of it. Think about a seed planted in the ground. For a period of time, nothing appears to be happening. If someone judged the process only by what they could see, they might conclude that the seed is inactive. Yet beneath the surface, growth is already taking place. Roots are developing. The foundation is being established. The visible plant appears later, but the real work begins long before anyone notices it. Personal transformation follows a similar pattern. The most important changes often occur internally before they become visible externally. One of the first signs of an inner shift is a change in perspective. Instead of seeing obstacles everywhere, you begin noticing opportunities. Instead of focusing on limitations, you focus on possibilities. Instead of constantly worrying about what could go wrong, you start considering what could go right. This shift may seem small, but it has a profound effect on the way you experience life. It changes where your attention goes, and attention influences action. Another sign of inner transformation is increased emotional stability. Many people allow circumstances to determine how they feel. A setback creates discouragement. A delay creates doubt. A challenge creates fear. But as the inner shift develops, Emotional dependence on circumstances begins to weaken. Confidence becomes less dependent on immediate results. Hope becomes less dependent on external validation. You begin carrying a sense of certainty even when evidence is limited. This inner confidence often surprises people. They may not fully understand why they feel more optimistic, but they notice that their relationship with life is changing. They stop reacting to every temporary difficulty as though it defines their future. They become more resilient. They recover more quickly from setbacks. They trust themselves more. These qualities become the foundation for future success. Another important aspect of the inner shift is the development of a new self-image. Before major breakthroughs occur, people often stop identifying with their old limitations. They no longer see themselves as victims of circumstance. They stop defining themselves by past failures. Instead, they begin seeing themselves as capable, resourceful, and deserving of better experiences. This change in identity influences every area of life because people tend to act consistently with the image they hold of themselves. Many individuals become impatient during this stage because they want immediate proof that things are changing. They look for visible evidence and become discouraged when results take time to appear. What they do not realize is that the inner transformation itself is evidence of progress. The new mindset, the new confidence, and the new perspective are signs that something significant is already happening. The roots are growing beneath the surface. History is filled with examples of people who experienced an internal breakthrough before an external one. Long before they achieved success, they developed belief. Long before they received recognition, they developed confidence. Long before opportunities appeared, they cultivated vision. The world noticed them only when results became visible, but their journey began much earlier. This understanding can completely change the way you approach your goals. Instead of becoming frustrated by temporary appearances, you begin valuing the inner work. You recognize that every empowering thought, every positive assumption, and every act of faith is helping build the foundation for future results. You stop measuring progress solely by what you can see and start appreciating what is changing within. Remember, every breakthrough has an invisible beginning. Every achievement starts as an idea. Every success starts as a belief. Every transformation starts with a decision to think differently. The outer world may eventually reflect that change, but it rarely happens first. So if you are pursuing greater abundance, success, or fulfillment, do not underestimate the importance of the inner shift. Strengthen your mindset, develop your confidence, refine your self-concept. Focus on becoming the person who naturally aligns with the future you desire. Because one of the strange things that happens before wealth arrives is that the breakthrough begins within. The inner shift comes first, and when it becomes strong enough, the outer world often has no choice but to reflect it. As we come to the end of this message, remember this powerful truth: wealth rarely begins the moment money appears. Wealth begins the moment your thinking changes. Long before the breakthrough arrives, there is often a shift in awareness. Long before new opportunities emerge, there is a new expectation. Long before circumstances transform, there is a transformation in identity. This is the part most people miss because it cannot always be seen. Yet it is often the foundation upon which every visible success is built. If you take nothing else from this message, remember that your future is influenced by the assumptions you accept today. The way you see yourself matters. The expectations you hold matter. The thoughts you repeatedly entertain matter. Every great achievement begins as an invisible decision before it becomes a visible reality. Stop measuring your progress only by external evidence. Stop assuming that nothing is happening simply because you cannot see immediate results. some of the most important changes occur beneath the surface. Confidence grows before success appears. Expectation grows before opportunity arrives. Faith grows before results become visible. The strange thing that happens before wealth arrives is that the person begins changing first. They stop thinking like someone who lacks. They stop acting from fear. They stop defining themselves by current limitations. They begin seeing possibility where they once saw obstacles. They begin expecting abundance where they once expected struggle. And that inner shift becomes the doorway to an entirely new experience of life. So leave today with a new awareness. Protect your mindset. Strengthen your self-concept. Choose thoughts that align with the future you desire. Trust that every positive change within you is preparing the way for greater opportunities ahead. Because when your inner world begins to reflect abundance, your outer world often finds a way to follow. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I truly appreciate your attention, your energy, and your commitment to personal growth. If this message inspired you, take a moment to support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who may need this message right now. Every interaction helps these ideas reach more people who are searching for hope, direction, and a new perspective on success. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Write these words, "My breakthrough begins within." Let that statement serve as a reminder that every meaningful transformation starts with a change in awareness, belief, and expectation. Thank you for being part of this community and for investing in your own growth. Your future is not determined solely by your current circumstances. It is influenced by the vision you hold, the assumptions you embrace, and the person you choose to become. Until next time, continue believing in greater possibilities, continue expecting good things, and continue building the mindset that attracts the future you desire. Take care, stay inspired, and remember, the greatest breakthroughs are often being prepared long before they become visible.